What's the true meaning of Anakin's final lesson to Ahsoka? Welcome back to Nerdist News, I'm Dan Casey, and today we're breaking down the latest episode of Ahsoka. Episode 5, titled Shadow Warrior, drove a lightsaber through countless fan theories while also giving us plenty of Clone Wars callbacks and meaningful character development. As expected, the reunion between Master and Apprentice teased in last week's episode took center stage in Episode 5. But what was the deeper meaning behind Anakin's final lesson to Ahsoka? Well, we're going to break it all down for you in just a moment, and as always, if you want to read all about it, Michael Walsh has you covered over on Nerdist.com. However, to talk about this in detail, we have to spoil what happens in the latest episode of Ahsoka. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're worried about that sort of thing, leave now before it's too late.
Okay, we better get on it then. Lander, get everyone moving. We're going back up again.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we?
Okay.
The Dave Filoni directed episode marks our official entry point into the second half of the season. The crux of this episode revolves around the unexpected reunion between Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. As we explained in last week's breakdown, they appear to be inside the World Between Worlds. For those who don't know, the World Between Worlds is an extra-dimensional plane connected to the Force. It exists outside of space and time in the galaxy far, far away. This mystical realm first appeared in the Star Wars Rebels episode, A World Between Worlds, in which the Jedi Ezra Bridger heard echoes of the past, present, and future. He ultimately used it to save Ahsoka from dying at Darth Vader's hands during their duel on Malachor some 2 years after the duel took place. Now, the reunion here turns combative fairly quickly, and not just because Anakin tells Ahsoka that she got old.
You look old. Trust me.
Ahsoka hangs on the precipice of life and death. Her physical body is in the waters below the henge on Cetos. Her metaphysical body, though, is inside the World Between Worlds. Perhaps it was transported there through her strong connection to the Force at this ancient ritual site, and her even deeper connection to the Sister, one of the Mortis gods who sacrificed herself to save Ahsoka's life during the Clone Wars. But honestly, the Sister, Mortis gods, that's enough to fill a whole other video, and we did actually touch upon this more explicitly in last week's breakdown. For now, just know that Ahsoka has died before, but she got better thanks to a transfer of essence from a dying Force god.
What's going on?
And she's been pulled into the World Between Worlds before, but then returned to the quote-unquote real world. Now, according to the book Star Wars Secrets of the Sith, the World Between Worlds connects all of time and space, creating a conduit between the living and the dead. And that's exactly what it functions as here. Anakin Skywalker appears as his pre-Sith self to Ahsoka, not because he's some Sidious scheme. Rather, given the plain strong connection to the Force, this is the manifestation of Anakin's spirit, a Force ghost of sorts, but maybe more accurately to the title, a shadow of his former self, here to teach his wayward Padawan one final lesson, that she needs to choose whether to live or to die. It sounds simple, right? It's an easy choice.
No.
But there's more to this binary choice than meets the eye. And that brings us to the title of the episode, which is once again laden with different layers of deeper meaning. On its face, Shadow Warrior feels like yet another reference to the films of Akira Kurosawa. Kurosawa's movie Kagemusha literally translates to Shadow Warrior. It was also executive produced by George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola. It's also a title shared by an episode of The Clone Wars, which was more explicitly modeled on the film.
Who's resemble what's up?
The legendary Japanese director was a massive influence on George Lucas in the creation of Star Wars. I mean, case in point, Lucas actually tried to cast Kurosawa's iconic leading man Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And many of the characters in Star Wars are directly modeled after characters in Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress. C-3PO and R2-D2, for example, are basically the unsuspecting peasants in that movie who get embroiled rescuing a princess. But moving on. Like a Force ghost of Christmas past, Anakin tries to impart one final lesson to his one-time Padawan. He does so as a shadow of his former self, taking her through some of the seminal battles that forged her into the person she is today. And he does so in a way that Anakin knows all too well, through battle. Hence, he is a literal shadow warrior, both in how he attacks Ahsoka's preconceived notions of self and her actual self. There's also a connection here to Jungian psychology and the notion of the shadow self. It's a concept in analytical psychology that one's shadow self is the manifestation of our repressed desires, emotions, and fears. And these deep-seated repressed fears are not to be conquered, rather they have to be recognized and accepted for one to achieve a state of harmony, or to put it in Star Wars terms, to achieve balance in the Force. In essence, Ahsoka must become a shadow warrior. She must wrestle with those fears, those insecurities, those shows anxieties about herself that she has yet to accept. And as Young wrote in Civilization in the West, how can anyone see straight when he does not even see himself and the darkness he unconsciously carries with him into all his dealings? For Ahsoka, many of those fears are connected to the trauma of coming of age on the battlefield during a brutal, protracted war. As a teenager, she had to lead soldiers into battle and grapple with the fact that her decisions got many of them killed, even when in service of an ostensible greater good. It's why Anakin's Sith miscarol takes Ahsoka to such bloody battles instead of more pleasant memories. It's also very important to note, these are memories that Ahsoka subconsciously chooses to return to. Now, one of the subtler examples of this dying of the light inside Ahsoka is the shot where Anakin draws his lightsaber against her for the very first time. The framing and imagery here is meant to evoke Anakin drawing his lightsaber on a room full of unsuspecting younglings in Revenge of the Sith. And this feels doubly impactful when you remember that Ahsoka was basically a child when she last saw Anakin as himself rather than Darth Vader. And that was the night that Anakin fully turned to the dark side. It was also the night that Ahsoka began to truly retreat inward, not only because she had to go into hiding, but maybe to inure herself from the trauma of seeing so many people she cared about either turn on her or be slaughtered at the drop of a hat. Now, the first battle that Anakin and Ahsoka visit is the Battle of Ryloth, which coincidentally is Hera Syndulla's homeworld. It was a grueling affair that saw the Galactic Republic and the Twi'lek Resistance battling the Separatist Alliance in a protracted military campaign. But more importantly, it marked the very first time that Ahsoka was given direct command over a group of soldiers. And seeing the countless dead and injured, Ahsoka is crushed by feelings of guilt. Guilt about how they died because they were following her orders. She worries that all she'll have to offer a Padawan someday is how to fight, how to kill, how to perpetuate the cycle of violence. Now, Anakin's lesson here kind of seems harsh at first glance. He tells Ahsoka that he's teaching her how to survive, and that if she chooses to stop fighting, she will die. Indeed, she will die, because to paraphrase Dylan Thomas, she must rage against the dying of the light. She needs to keep fighting to rekindle that spirit of the light side within her and regain the balance that she once felt. Or else she may as well give up and shuffle off this mortal coil, because all would truly be lost. Next, Ahsoka and Anakin find themselves amid another pitched battle, the Siege of Mandalore. This is a deeply significant moment in Ahsoka's life for a couple reasons. By this point in time, Ahsoka and Anakin had parted ways. Ahsoka was trying to liberate Mandalore from Darth Maul and the Mandalorian supercommandos who were loyal to his Shadow Collective. It was during her duel with Maul on Mandalore that he tried to tempt her to the dark side as well. Meanwhile, Anakin was fully losing himself to the dark side. The events of Order 66 took place very shortly after Ahsoka emerged seemingly victorious, but the resulting chaos and slaughter made that momentary victory feel ultimately meaningless. It also set off a chain of events that culminated with the effective destruction of the planet, the death of Sabine Wren's family, the strip mining of the planet's Beskar reserves, and the scattering of the Mandalorian people into the different coverts that we see by the time of The Mandalorian. Now, Ahsoka's choice to return to this battle with Anakin, one that he was not present for, speaks volumes. Perhaps deep down she believes that if Anakin had been with her at the Siege of Mandalore, he would not have fallen to the dark side. And if he had not fallen to the dark side, maybe there would be no Darth Vader, no Empire, no Purge of Mandalore, and no death of Clan Ren. Moreover, this was Ahsoka's first time realizing who she was in a battle without Anakin and his influence. And these feelings are encapsulated by Ahsoka's exchange with Anakin about legacy. Anakin tells her that within you will be everything I am, all the knowledge I possess. Just as I inherited knowledge from my master and he from his, you're part of a legacy. Unfortunately, Ahsoka can only see her part of the legacy as being one of death and war. She cannot accept the full totality of what Anakin and the other Jedi imparted to her because to Ahsoka, that legacy is tainted, both by how the Jedi treated her when she was accused of bombing the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and more importantly, what Anakin ultimately became.
Who?
Throughout the episode, we repeatedly see that Ahsoka is unable to reconcile the man Anakin was with the monster he became. She grapples with her fears about how maybe she helped contribute to his fall into darkness, and her deep-seated worries that she's destined to have the same fate. Over the course of Ahsoka's life, countless people have tried to tempt her to the dark side, and we see a manifestation of that when her eyes flash a Sith yellow during her final lightsaber duel with Anakin. As Yoda once told Luke Skywalker, the greatest teacher failure is. Our failures and mistakes do not define us. Rather, they contribute to the tapestry of who we are, and we must learn from them and find a way to move forward. It's a lesson that Luke ultimately imparted to his father in Return of the Jedi. He helps Anakin overcome the thrall Palpatine held over him and accept that brutality is not the only solution.
Tell your sister you were right.
For Ahsoka, she saw her part in the Jedi Legacy as one exclusively of war, violence, and death. She was afraid of succumbing to the dark side, and so to protect herself, she shut herself off completely from both the darkness and the light. It's perhaps why many have noted Ahsoka's comparative stoicism in this series. As Michael Walsh wrote on Nerdist, to avoid embracing the dark side like Anakin, who gave into his emotions, Ahsoka shut off her heart. To avoid letting darkness in, she kept the light out. But like Anakin said, Ahsoka is more than that, because he is more than that. And by accepting her legacy in its totality, the legacy she inherited from Anakin and the Jedi, the legacy she continues to evolve and contribute to, she was able to achieve balance once more and return to the land of the living, to be able to choose life. And when she does, she is reborn in a way that many have likened to Gandalf the Grey's return as Gandalf the White.
I've been sent back.
Comparing Ahsoka to Gandalf is something that fans have been doing for quite some time since her crisp new look at the end of Star Wars Rebels. It's also something that both Dave Filoni and Rosario Dawson have invoked in regards to how they choose to portray this character. It's something that Nerdist's own Michael Walsh wrote about at length in a recent essay. To quote Gandalf in The Two Towers, "Darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. Stars wheeled overhead, and every day was as long as the life age of the earth. But it was not the end. I felt light in me again. I've been sent back until my task is done." And like Gandalf, Ahsoka has also been sent back because her task is not yet done. She chose to live. She did not let the darkness in. The Ahsoka who emerges from the world between worlds here seems to be one who's clear-eyed, emotive, and open to the universe around her in a way we haven't seen in a long, long time. It's perhaps why she's able to commune with the Purrgil at the episode's end. Now she's finally rekindled that light inside of her. So does this mean that Sabine should look to Ahsoka's coming at first light on the 5th day? At Thrawn, look to the east of the pathway to Peridea? Only time will tell. But now, with Anakin's final lesson fully imparted, Ahsoka is ready to tackle any obstacle that comes her way.
Hey! Get in there.
Anyway, folks, there you have it. That's everything you need to know about Anakin's final lesson to Ahsoka. We'll have even more Star Wars deep dives for you on Nerdist in the meantime as we count down the days ahead to Episode 6. For now, though, tell us, what do you think? What do you think Anakin's true lesson actually was? And did you spot anything that we missed?
Kanan Jarrus was a Jedi.
Okay.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.